Just Yah righteousness.
Okay, for Yah righteousness, Jerusalem, and the Holy Seed. God bless everybody. This is March the 5th, 2022. And I hope you're getting me clear. We've been having a lot of problems. Like I said a minute ago, I don't know if you heard me, they probably got Pegasus on us trying to disrupt and confound and whatnot. So like I said, bear with us. We're doing the best we can. Y'all willing, we'll be able to do this Q&A. Hold on, is the stream working?
No, it's shut off.
Okay, so y'all had to turn the stream off because they was getting all kind of problems. So we're just in the room, evidently, in the Pal Talk room. But, it doesn't surprise me. As I said a few months ago, I figured they would probably be attacking more, because those of you who've been watching what's been going on since the Ukraine situation, reached this intensity that it's reached, that America has shut down RT, and some of these Western European nations have shut down RT, Russia Today, Finland, Poland, some of these other nations, they barred RT. They're not letting RT come across. And in turn, we just saw yesterday that Russia has made it because, they know the West has this massive propaganda machine at work to keep the people from, in the West, definitely from knowing really what's going on. Okay. So what they've done over in Russia, Putin passed a law that any news people from the West, that's over there in the Ukraine, in Russia, that prints anything other than truly what's happening, he's going to lock them up for 15 years. So we heard yesterday that many of the news persons now are leaving from over there. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to be locked up, because by the same token, they cannot print anything that their newspapers and editors, they're under control, does not want them to print. So, that was the smart way that Putin did it. He didn't just, kick them out. What he told them, you can stay here, but you better print the truth, because if you don't print the truth, then I'm going to lock you up for 15 years. So so they know they can't print the truth, so they just started leaving yesterday. We heard that yesterday before the Sabbath. So it doesn't surprise me that they're attacking, however kind of, like I said, it's probably Pegasus, whatever devices they have to attack the movement. Those of you who still been watching Russia Today on the internet, you've seen how basically RT America has basically been shut down, per se. Okay, different shows that were on RT America, Boom Bust, Max Kaiser, they're not showing them anymore. And the way it looks, Max Kaiser, he just closed down anyway. And like I said, RT America is basically not up and running. You can get RT International, RT Europe, I think it is international. You can get that, but that's about it. So it's a massive media blackout, as much as they can do. And when I say they, again, that's the West, right? Because they don't want people to really know what's going on. I mean, here in the papers yesterday and on Democracy Now! And on the news, they claimed that Russia had hit this nuclear site, a nuclear plant over in the Ukraine, in one of those cities over there. And that's not true. They didn't hit the nuclear plant. They hit not far from it, but they didn't hit the plant itself. But if you were to read these newspapers and listen to the news over here, you would think they actually hit the plant itself. See? So again, they're, twisting the news and trying to block out truly what's going on. over, over there. And that's expected. I mean, again, they've been propagandizing for centuries, and even more so now, right? Just like what, brought out today in the session, in the book, how these discrepancies exist, right? As I said in the session, I hadn't brought it up in a long time, but I've mentioned in the past, we're not going to really get these things straightened out until Yah brings us to Jerusalem, the movement of the Most High. And as it says in that chapter 30, Yeremiah, when he causes the governor to approach unto him, just like the similar situation with Moshe, right? We know the high priest approaches, but you understand, the governor, he will cause the governor to approach so that he can tell the governor who the high priest is and who the priests are and who the Levites are, like I said earlier, who the descendants out of the different tribes, because Yah is the only one that knows. By the same token, he has to, make it plain these different things in the book that have been twisted, that have been, doctored by the illuminated Edomite, where we see, like I said, in these laws, that apply, in certain situations, when they were broken, from what we can see in the book, people were supposed to, be, were supposed to die, like David and Bathsheba. I saw where someone put up about David's daughter, she wasn't killed. It wasn't in the field when Amnon raped her. That's true. We can see, according to the book, she was desolate, so she didn't have any children. But according to this law, she was supposed to die. We know Amnon did die eventually, right? A couple of years later. But the point being is, I mean, these laws we see weren't exactly put into effect immediately. I can see David, not necessarily invoking these laws because he knew it was his fault. But by the same token, like I said, a lot of things not going to get cleared up until we get home. And he's the one's got to clear them up. Okay? I see some people have a problem with bringing these things out. Okay? But like I said in the session, and I've always been that way, I do my best to be objective and to discuss these things. They have to be looked at, right? And discussed. As I said in the session, you cannot refute the fact that basically the progenitors had one wife at a time, per se. Like I said, we know about the situation with Abraham and Hagar. And as I mentioned, Hagar, yeah, she got out of place, but looked like she got back in place, right? But then she, it was enmity, acrimony there, right? Because again, this was Sarai's doing, right? And so we can see, how she got ahead of Yah and how, how that fomented and how it turned out, right? But Yah, he came to Hagar and, and revealed to her that what he was going to do with Ishmael, and he did that. But so like I said, we see competitiveness there, back and forth, acrimony between Sarai and Hagar, right? So like I said, we see a law of two wives. We see the progenitors basically had one wife per se. Like I said, we know the situation with Yaakov, right, and how that came about, right? And we see the problems that it caused in the children to a great degree, right? So these things have to be looked at, right? And as I said, also when you look at the law in Deuteronomy 17 about the governor, right? He's not supposed to multiply wives. So I say, so again, what constitutes multiplying wives? What is the number that's considered multiplying? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we see a law of 2 wives, right? But we do see also, right, what Solomon, what his mother, what Bathsheba wrote in the 31st proverb, right? And when you read it, what did she say? She was telling him, don't partake in the ways that destroys, governors, that weakens one's heart. And so, I look at situations all the way to this day with men, as I said in the session, who deal with multiple women, and they're weakened. They're weakened. I mean, basically, the people who I see, they're weakened already anyway, because they are not about Yah, right? But they're even weakened more so when they deal with so many women, right? And no guideline. Now, quite naturally, we don't know yet, right? It might be where 7 women will take hold of one man. That we see that in chapter 4 Yeshaya, right? That might happen. Okay, but as I said, will it be then that the women will be humbled to the point where it will be no competitiveness, where it will be no acrimony, no envy, no jealousy? So we got to wait until we see all of this. You know what I'm saying? We have to be objective, right? And we have to look at things in an objective manner. I know it's a lot of people, or so many people, that have a problem with me, but like I said, that's their problem. I just, want to serve the Most High and bring these things to the forefront for us to look at, okay? And to examine, right? Like I said, certain things are not going to be cleared up till we get to the land, and Yah's the one that has to clear them up. It's just that simple, okay? So I got just a couple of things, few things I'm going to read, and I just happened to see, person brought up about Purim. I mentioned that at the beginning of the session, right? Purim, 14th, 15th day of this month, which is a Monday and a Tuesday of this month. So don't forget that, because I also mentioned, next month is Feast of Unleavened Bread Passover recognition, right? But I've got article here, Chicago Tribune, March the 3rd, European firms leasing planes to Russia harmed by sanctions. See, so again, we see that these sanctions that America's coming out with, as we were listening to yesterday, Peter Lavelle out of Russia, right? Peter Lavelle, he had Michael Hudson and a couple of other people on his show, and it was very informative. You get a chance, pull up Peter Lavelle yesterday, the 4th, and listen to his show with Michael Hudson, and like I said, he had 2 other people on there with him, and listen to what they're talking about. Again, it's on the order of when I mentioned Professor Richard Wolff here the other week, and what he said about these sanctions. It is not going to do America any good, or the European nations any good, to put sanctions on Russia, because again, Russia had, a lot of the wheat that these nations import comes from Russia. Quite naturally, oil, a lot of oil comes from Russia. A lot of gas, natural gas, comes from Russia. Okay? So how are they going to get around this? And right now, I don't know how many of you saw it yesterday, but that was part of the headlines too, that you had different senators, whatnot, represent. They wanted Biden to, put a ban on Russian oil, and Biden hadn't done that as of yesterday. And for what I can say, I don't think he's done it yet, and he might not do it because, again, they need this Russian oil. Okay, just like Western Europe, many of those nations over there, they need that Russian gas. Okay, see, so again, it's really hypocritical. You're talking about, banning Russia this, banning Russia that, but you're not going to stop receiving the oil or the gas that is needed by these nations over in Europe and by, again, America to a great extent. So again, this, it's really, it looks like America's really pushing this situation again to blame the economic collapse on Russia, right? Which is, again, this is what, they put so much economic collapse on the pandemic that they've, created, right? Because, again, the paper currency was on its way to collapse anyway. Okay? And so they're trying to mask a lot of these problems that they, brought on through QE, quantitative easing, the super low interest rates, trying to keep the, this economic situation going, which was destined to collapse anyway. All paper currencies have collapsed, over a period of time. All paper currencies, at some point, they collapse. So, again, Biden yesterday, I heard him say that they were going to create more jobs here in America. He said something about the, factory making rubber gloves and things of that nature, right? He even told the media, don't ask me, any particulars, right? He just made a few statements about what America's going to do, and then when it was over, he walked off. They were trying to ask him a lot of questions that he didn't answer because he had no answers for them. Okay? Because, again, industry is not coming back here to America. It's not happening. I mean, we see that, again, 4715 Yeshaya. Okay, the industry has left its door to Babylon for good. They're never coming back here. So America has been reduced to a service industry nation. And again, what made America great was its being able to produce, right, as it did, leading up to World War I, leading up to World War II, after World War II. But we start to see the major exodus of industry from 1970 on. Okay, we've talked about that in the past, right? And again, as I said, Ben-Ami and the Demona movement left here in May 1967. They started to trickle into the land in May 1968. And industry, started to leave America possibly late 69 on in from 1970 on. All the steel mills and whatnot still being made in Japan, right? Because when they rebuilt Japan after World War II, again, Sony, Standard Oil of New York, and the various mega industries of the West, they rebuilt Japan with the latest technology. And so then they started closing down industry here in America and started to put droves of people out of work. And you really start to really see this in the latter part from the 70s on. Okay, massive job loss. And it definitely hit the communities of Israel first. And then as you go into the 80s, it was hitting, Caucasian communities as well. And now it's broad-based, right? You have massive job loss, and we're seeing the systematic destruction of this fourth dominion of man, and definitely the systematic destruction of the daughter of Babylon. Again, like it says in Jeremiah chapter 51, we would have healed her, but she cannot be healed. Let every man flee back into his own country. Okay? So we see how too these Western European countries supposed to be allies with America, they are put into a position, now that, like I said, the things that they need, gas, oil, wheat, that comes out of Russia, and other things like, that article I just mentioned, European firms leasing planes to Russia harmed by sanctions. So how long are these European nations are going to go along with America and its, totally, utterly ludicrous policies of sanctions? You follow me? See, because again, America's got their puppets in these presidencies, like this Zelensky in the Ukraine, right? Put him in there in 2014 when they couped the duly elected president of the Ukraine, right? Okay, they've got their crony Macron in France, right? Boris Johnson in England. You follow what I'm saying? So basically, this is the Illuminati Edomite of the West that basically controls these nations. And from what I can see, it's the House of Rothschild. But like I say, you've got other Illuminati members. So are we seeing the fracturing of the Illuminati cabal? These Illuminati families are at the heart of the conspiracy. Is that what we're seeing? Or is this just basically directed at this daughter of Babylon, the United States of America, to destroy the United States of America, because the movement of the Most High is here in America? And you've got more and more Israelites awakening to the fact that they Israel. Again, just like the problem we had today. I mean, those of you who were listening to the session, those of you who possibly were on the stream, and the stream goes out, if you're able to get into the room from the stream goes out in other places of the earth, and possibly people were plugged in from France or England or what have you, Romania, like we know Miatira is in Romania, the last we heard from her. So, I mean, when they disrupt the stream like they've done today, and make it hard for people to hear that, this is an attack, right? They don't want people to hear this word. They don't want people to really take a look at these things and objectively, right? That we talk about. Just like, it's some in the room or on the stream today, they didn't like even what was being talked about. Okay? They attacked me, and that's okay. As I've said in the past, Yah's made me the face of this movement, so I expect attack, no problem. But the deal is, that's part of my job, is to bring out these things that need to be looked at objectively. And I've always done that. And again, don't we see in Proverbs where it's to the honor of those of us to search out a matter, right? Whatever that matter is, we're supposed to search it out, right? And as I've said in the past, we're supposed to take the whole book into account when we're reading the book. right? We you know, that's why I said you cannot refute when it was brought to me about the progenitors, basically one wife, right? You can't refute that. That's in the book, right? Now, as far as the multiple wives, okay, we see that too. So now, which is it? But we do see that David got in trouble with the multiple wives. Okay, we can see that. All right, and you know, like I said, people have a problem, you know, with the things I say, but I bring these things out, and you have to bring them out, right? Discrepancies, things that have been, you know, twisted or attacked by the illuminated Edomite. I mean, they're the ones who translated this book, and so you have to bring these things out, right? I know people have a problem, you know, with it, but that's their problem. I mean, we have to look at these things objectively, you know. You know, some people, some Israelites have multiple wives, and possibly some Caucasians too, and they get along fine. That's great. Nothing, you know. I'm not adverse to that. Okay. But again, it's still, what is the actual law of that multiple wives? Like I said, what constitutes multiple wives? Okay, what constitutes that? What you know? When does it get to where you've multiplying wives? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 10? You know, what constitutes that? That's not really actually said in the book, right? So, but like I know, we'll end up getting this when we get home. Okay, I know we'll end up getting this because Yah's going to make it plain, where nobody can refute, nobody can, you know, say anything if they've got any scintilla of sense. But again, as I said in the past, when we look at that Ezekiel 20 verse 38, rebels and transgressors are not going to return with Yah when he returns. Okay, simple as that. That's why different ones have been purged out from around this movement, out of this movement, and generally they leave on their own accord. That's you know, for whatever reasons, they get revealed that they're really not committed and submitted, and so then they leave. You know what I'm saying? Or they, you know, say that you know, people are worshiping me, and they're not, evidently they're not going to worship me, so they leave away from the movement. Whatever. Okay, whatever it needs to be, how Yah purges them away. Okay, but as I said in the past, I have no doubt that this movement is the movement of the Most High, and you know, people talk about the book. The book so substantiates that, because that's the only place where we see Yah righteousness. We only see it twice: YHWH chapter 23 and YHWH chapter 33. Now back here to these newspaper articles. Chicago Tribune, March the 3rd, prices soar as coalition sticks to oil output plan. Okay, and I know all of you see that, how these you know, prices of gas, right, and heating gas is soared. You know, it's gone up. And again, when energy goes up, everything goes up, because everything basically is connected to energy some kind of way. Okay. We haven't even gotten the full repercussions of this yet. You know what I'm saying? But it's coming. At the same time, we see inflation rising also, again, because of the collapse of the dollar, right? Also in the same article, it says, or should I say this same paper, it says Ford splits its operations into electric and gas divisions. So now that's Ford Motor Company, right? Now they got an electric division and they got a gas division. Okay? See, and again, they want to move now to the electric, and that's where they're moving. And it's going to take a while, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you're not going to see these combustible engines go out real soon, because that's basically the most of what you have, right? But again, they don't tell us, you know, because I don't know if you heard Biden yesterday, but he said they're planning on setting up thousands of rechargeable, these charge stations, right, for these electric vehicles. And again, he said, don't ask me, any questions. He wasn't taking any questions, right? But that's what their plan is, because they're planning on switching over, right? But they don't tell you, how much it's going to cost to charge your vehicle at these charging stations, these electric charging stations, when they get them set up. Because I don't really know. I'm sure they charge them something now. I haven't ever heard any price of how much it costs to charge your electric vehicle up. But it's going to be some kind of charge. And again, I've never heard about how much it is going to cost when you have to replace that battery. Because, those batteries at some point, they're not going to be able to take a charge. Right? So you gotta replace the battery. And they haven't said anything. I haven't seen anything. Maybe some of you have. How much a new battery is going to cost. I haven't seen anything about that yet. So, all these things are in the future, right? Where and again, that article that I read at the beginning of last year, near the end of last year, Jacob the Rothschild's response to Henry Maycow. And if you remember, one of the things that Rothschild said is that eventually there will be no private vehicles per se. People won't have any private vehicles. That's going out. Okay? So just like he said, the dollar has seen its day, the fiat currencies, because all these other fiat currencies in the world are tied into the dollar, because the dollar was the reserve currency, or it used to be, as I said in this session and have said before, the SDR is the new reserve currency now. They just don't talk about it, but it's the SDR, right? But how long is that going to be? Because again, we're seeing Russia being cut out of the SWIFT, but Russia had already, we talked about this a few years ago. Russia had already divorced themselves of the dollar. China been, I'm sure, spending many dollars that they've been getting from products being sold here to America. And I'm sure they have been using those dollars to set up industry in other countries, right? But it's going to get to the place, more likely than not, where China's going to divorce itself pretty basically from the dollar. Okay? And Russia and China's already setting that up with the BRIC nations, right? India, South Africa, Brazil, right? Iran, right? Venezuela. You're going to have more and more countries. They're going to plug in to Russia and China, okay? Where they're not dictated to, right? Where they don't have have to be put in a position where they're, just like the Illuminati Edomite here in the West through the IMF, right, have confiscated, different nations' gold reserves that were here in the West, like Venezuela, Iran, right? Different nations' gold reserves have been totally, or their monies in these banks, right, have been frozen. You understand? That's what Iran is in the process now with this JP COA revitalizing that Trump stopped, right? You understand? That's what the Edomites in the land are afraid of, that they see this JP COA agreement being revitalized and no changes made. So that means that Iran is getting ready to get $7 billion of their money that was frozen, okay, in the banking system. See, so you got a lot of nations that are afraid of that. They don't want to, why would they want to deal with America when possibly their finances can be frozen? So that's what Russia and China, they're setting up a whole new monetary system, in the sense of where you don't have to go to the SWIFT here in New York, the IMF. You understand what I'm saying? And so they're setting up their own thing. See, and from that, and these other things that are happening, I can see where that over in Yeremiah chapter 50-51, when Yah is talking about the daughter of Babylon, and what does he say? They're going to be against, this daughter of Babylon. They're going to be against it round about. No nation's going to be with it. And I can see this materializing more and more every day. Because nothing returns to Yah void. Right? So we're seeing inflation. Here's another article in the same paper said inflation climbs 5.8% in the Eurozone. And it's probably even more than that now today, right? Because it's rising rapidly, right? And just some more how they control media and don't want people to, read different things, get different information. Activism on rise over book bans, right? More pushing back against efforts to pull works from school. Because again, I finally got, Yada got that for us, that The Real Anthony Fossey by Bobby Kennedy and the other author. So we got that book here. I haven't started reading yet because I'm going to finish this Home Records by Aaron Glantz first, and I don't have that much to go before I can finish that. Also, what is it? Protesters in New Zealand set fires as police break up camp. Okay? These New Zealanders are raising all kind of commotion, pushing back on the mandatory shots, wearing a mask, not being allowed to work if they haven't taken the shot. Okay? And this is, again, more and more all across the earth, right? Chicago Tribune, March the 2nd, U.S. allies agreed to release oil reserves as prices soar. Addition of 60 million barrels aims to keep energy flowing after Russia's invasion. See, but again, Saudis, they've got stored oil. They don't have any pumping oil. I've said that before. So, and here the other day I heard that, they're only going to release so much stored oil because they're not going to, deplete their reserves. You follow me? So, this is what's going on, and quite naturally, the illuminated Edomite, they do not want people to really understand really what's happening. Okay? Really doesn't, they're trying to clamp down on the media. So that's probably why we've had so much trouble today. Okay? That's why we don't even have the stream, can't even, stream is not even streaming right now. Okay? Because, we had about 60-something people all together. It looked like around 60 people, 50-something, 60 people that were, listening to the session today. On the stream, in the room, all together, right? But now they've knocked out the stream. You might have heard that feedback that we were getting. And so Yada just had to shut the stream down. Now it's just the room. Okay? So, that's what's going on. They're trying to keep people from getting any kind of illumination on really what's happening, what's going on in the world today, on this earth, right? But let me just read you this too. This is out of a magazine that Yada gets. It's the Women's Voice, right? And it says, Natural Immunity is Powerful and Effective by Karen Jensen, ND. She's a naturopathic doctor, right? And it says, why aren't public health officials in North America talking about natural immunity? Question mark. Then she goes on to say, she says, first, I want to be clear. I'm not against vaccinations, but as a retired naturopath doctor involved in healthcare for over 30 years, I am saddened that very few of our public health officials are acknowledging the power of natural immunity. To my knowledge, our immune systems have not suddenly shut down, and natural immunity is still the most vigorous and important response to various pathogens. In addition, doctors and health professionals across North America seem to have been silenced from speaking about dietary supplements, improving the immune response, and possibly reducing the risk of contracting or the severity of COVID-19. I never thought I would see the day when health professionals could not openly communicate with their patients. See, it's trying to cut down communication, right? She says healthy lifestyle information should be shared, but these days this no longer seems possible unless it fits a particular narrative. So what is natural immunity anyway? When it comes to the immune system, things can get complicated. There are 3 types of natural immunity in the human body: innate, adaptive, and passive. And there's also immunity from immunizations. Innate immunity is what we are born with, and it includes external barriers such as the skin and mucous membranes of the throat and gut. It is the first line of defense against pathogens. If this first line fails at holding back the pathogenic invader, then the adaptive immunity army is sent in. Adaptive immunity is what we develop as we are exposed to various pathogens or receive vaccinations throughout our lives. If the same virus or pathogen were to reinvade our bodies in the future, the adaptive response will remember these previous enemies and protect us from a serious illness. Passive immunity is acquired from another source but does not last indefinitely. For example, a baby receives antibodies from the mother through the placenta before birth and in breast milk after, protecting the baby early in life. Immunization introduces antigens or weakened pathogens to a person in the form of vaccine injections so that the individual produces antibodies and in many cases does not get sick. The CDC estimates that more than 100 million Americans have been infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Evidence is mounting all over the world that natural immunity is at least as protective as a vaccination. And yet, this information is not shared with the public, nor is it taken into account in vaccine mandates in the U.S. and Canada. The following evidence is an example of some of the research that supports the inclusion of natural immunity for vaccine passports. A study funded by the National Institutes of Health found durable immune responses in 95% of the 200 patients who previously had COVID-19 up to 8 months after infection. One of the largest studies to date, published in Science in February 2021, found that although antibodies declined over 8 months, memory B cells increased over time, suggesting long-term protection. Cleveland Clinic surveyed more than 50,000 employees to compare groups based on COVID-19 infection and vaccination status history. Not one of over 1,300 unvaccinated employees with a history of infection tested positive during the 5 months of study. Researchers concluded that this cohort are unlikely to benefit from COVID-19 vaccination. In Israel, researchers accessed a database of the entire population to compare the efficacy of vaccination with previous infections and found nearly identical numbers. Our results, quote, question the need to vaccinate previously infected individuals, unquote. They concluded, with the Delta variant and rising case counts in the U.S. and Canada implementing vaccination mandates that do not include natural immunity from previous infection is contrary to what the data is saying. The hypothesis that natural immunity is unreliable is incorrect, and our public health officials and politicians should be willing to acknowledge this. Anthony Fauci has recently hinted that the government may rethink its stance on natural immunity. Some large medical centers in the U.S. have already announced that they will recognize natural immunity for their vaccine requirements for their employees. As the data accumulates and strengthens, it is essential to share these facts with the public and be more transparent with the information collected worldwide, primarily when the rules for vaccine mandates affects all of our lives. This is, like I said, a magazine. Yada gave it to me. Again, it's called Women's Voice. So, you know, you've got more and more people coming out and, saying that, you have a certain amount of natural immunity, and it all depends on the person and what they eat, how they conduct their lives, because it's an article right next to that one, and it says, flossing, flossing your teeth can, stop dementia from coming into, from a person acquiring dementia just by flossing your teeth regularly. Okay? Good hygiene, right? So again, it's just like, they, and when I say they, the illuminated Edomite that runs this West and, the Western world per se, they don't want people to have this kind of knowledge, right? Just like I showed the little article, right, about the turkeys. A very small article. If you really weren't looking at it, you could miss it, right? But if you remember, those of you who've been with YHWH Righteousness through the years, like I said, about 3-4 years ago, time goes so fast. I think it was around 3-4 years ago, maybe 5. I read the article about the thousands of turkeys on the turkey farm that had died. They showed the picture of them all in a, many of them in a pile. And I showed that. And again, I have no doubt that they're injecting these viruses in these type of, food sources that people shouldn't be eating in the first place because they're unclean. They're hybrids, right? Turkeys, chickens, quite naturally the chicken egg. And I'm sure, like I said in the session, Yosha said to me how they were putting these viruses in certain vegetables, squash and lettuce and whatnot, certain vegetables, right? So, again, I know Yaakov and Yadasa, we talked about it, and it was like they, as they said to me, Yaakov and Yadasa, it's got to be, if you're about Yah and you're on the menu of Yah, then Yah is going to protect us, right? As I've said in the past, in reference to that Michael, the first vision Daniel got in chapter 12, Daniel 11:36 to 12:10, Yah said he's got Michael, the chief prince angel, right? Chief angel. He's watching over those of us down here, right? So again, if we turn to Yah with all our heart and soul, and we're committed and submitted to, doing what Yah says, which again, Deuteronomy 30 verse 2, which again is the wife of our youth, Malachi chapter 2, right? And in that regard, we can't have two wives, right? We can only have one wife. That's that law of Yah, which binds us to our husband, Yah of hosts, right? Again, as I said in the session, this is what Yah is talking about over in Ezekiel 16, to be real, concise. Those of you who are knowledgeable of the book and take the whole book, Genesis through Malachi, into account, you can see that's what happened to our forefathers, those of us who are descendant of Israel, right? Those of you who are plugged into Yah righteousness that are not Israelites, well, quite naturally, your forefathers were in idolatry anyway, right? And this is what we see. The masses of the people of the world today, they are, stuck in idolatry. They know not the word of Yah, They know not what he has revealed in his righteousness, his book of remembrance, right? Even though it's been attacked, as Yah says in the 51st chapter of Yeshaya, his righteousness would not be abolished, right? So again, we know it's things that the illuminated Edomite has attacked, like I said, twisted, deleted, added, only to what Yah would allow him to do. And again, like it says in Zechariah chapter 4, Yah says, what not by power nor by might, but by my spirit. That's in harmony with what we see in the 42nd chapter of Yeshaya, is it not? Behold, my servant, mine elect, in whom my soul delights. I've put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged until he has set judgment in the earth. He shall not bruise a reed or quench the smoking flax, right? The isles wait for his law. I'm just reading it out of my heart. I'm not looking at it, but I'm sure some, if not all of you are. You're acquainted with it, right? So Yah does this by his spirit, right? Again, Yeshaya 28, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Right? Sometimes we get snared. Sometimes we fall backwards. Sometimes, we go to turn to the left or to the right. And then at some point, Yah makes it plain that we've made a mistake. And then we have to acknowledge Leviticus 26, 40, 41, and 42. We have to acknowledge our iniquity, right? And the iniquity of our fathers and mothers, right? And accept of our punishment, right? Because again, Exodus chapter 34, Yah, and it's in other places too, Yah is very merciful and long suffering, right? But by no means clearing the guilty. So you're going to get a whipping. That's up to you how hard that whip is going to be, right? I mean, because when we look at Job, right, he didn't see that he had become prideful. And Yah whipped him egregiously, where Job had like 1 foot in the grave. But he maintained his integrity. But the deal was, right, he was righteous in his own eyes. That was, his pride. And that was his whipping. And then, after you go through that commentary, right, and you see when, Elihu dressed him down, ready, right? But then Yah read him in the 38th, 39th chapter. And then Job's eyes was open and he could see his sin. And when you get to that chapter 40, he said, I didn't sin. Let me put my hand over my mouth and say no more. Yah comes back in, and then what does Yah say after a few lines? Let the proud be abased. Pride go before a fall. See, because again, as I said earlier in the session, I brought this to a few people over the last month and a half, a couple of months, right? Things I talked about today in the session. And I got different responses from different people, some similar. Like I said, this one person, he told me, that he had 2 women in his past that he loved exactly the same. I was like, okay, but he was hostile. He immediately took offense, as I see some in the room today have taken offense at, examining this, what, Yah has brought out. I don't know how anybody could take offense if you're really in pursuit of the Most High. See, because, we have to be objective, don't we? I mean, it's not to be subjective where we get all emotional. It's to be objective because, again, we're examining. And I said time and again through the years, we have to take the whole book into account when we're looking at it, right? Like I said earlier, you can't refute basically that the progenitors had 1 wife. That's in the book. Like I said, this person, he brought out about how it says in, I said Genesis 26, but it's Genesis 25th chapter, right? I think it's verse 6 where, it says Abraham had concubines and these sons by these concubines, but we don't see them mentioned. And I told him, I look at that, that's an insert. Because when you look at Genesis 15, Yah is definitely going to tell us the sons that Abraham had, because they became nations. So I don't see no concubines. You know, I only see Sarai, then Hagar, right? And like I said, this was Sarai's own doing. It wasn't all Hagar's fault. It's Sarai's fault for getting ahead of Yah. We see that, right? But then when Hagar was sent away, right, her and Ishmael, and Yah came to her, spoke to her, right, and he did what he said. He you know, kept them, and her and Ishmael, and Ishmael, you know, he gave him children, right, 12 tribes, right. They're Hebrews, right, out of Abraham. We see Sarai, when she transitioned, Yah gave, you know, Abraham took Keturah. She had 6 sons. They all became nations, Hebrews, right? I can't see Yah, you know, Abraham having sons that we're not told about. Okay? So I don't go for that Abraham had concubines. I don't go for that. You know, and we know, again, the term concubine is something Esau inserted in there because it's just a wife, right? You got a wife, you got a wife, you got a wife, right? But this same person, he even brought to me about, you know, what it says over there in 2 Samuel chapter 12. You know, what Yah said through Nathan to David. When it says, I gave you your master's wives. He made a thing about that. He said, why would Yah give David wives if he wasn't supposed to have wives? So he said, so I ain't going, you know, like I said, I saw he was hostile. So I didn't have much to say when I saw this hostility. Because before then, and basically pretty much up to that point, you know, over the years, he's been, you know, we examine things. We talk about them, you know, objectively. We don't get emotional, right? And when I saw he was emotional, I basically left off. So I didn't respond to him making this statement about, you know, Yah saying through Nathan to David, you know, I gave you your master's wives. But see, what popped up into my head was Jeremiah chapter 17, where Yah says in Jeremiah 17, the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yah, try the heart, the reins of the heart, to give everyone according to, as I said, their desire according to their ways. Now, so, you know, we know that a person can have desires in their heart, right? If they desire something enough, Yah give it to them, whether it's right or wrong, per se, basically. You understand what I'm saying? And then, you know, I mean, and if it's wrong, we see the you know, we see the repercussions and consequences of that, don't we? Right? You know, I mean, we see that time and again in the book, don't we? Right? So David, very well, he had a desire for wives, and Yah gave them to him. Maybe Solomon, Saul, you know, because Saul was up in age, right? You know what I mean? He was older than David, right? So maybe he had 2 or 3 wives that were younger, and they were his wives, and maybe David liked them. And when Saul, you know, transitioned, when Yah took him out, maybe David took a couple of those wives, you know, women to himself, because his plural says wives, right? But again, was that to his, you know, to his benefit? Because we do see, according to the book, that David coveted, because he coveted Bathsheba. So possibly he coveted 2 or 3 of Saul's younger wives, I would say. I wouldn't say any of the older ones, right? And we see what happened to Saul. It didn't turn out too good for him, did it? And then we see what happened with David. Even though he took his whipping, he didn't run, from his chastisement. As I still see people trying to run from themselves to this day and don't want to acknowledge and don't acknowledge when they've, done something wrong, when they've made a mistake, or when they are contemplating making one. Because again, I know it's some people that talk to me, they get something in their heart they want to do, and then they want to have some kind of situation with me where they can say that they don't talk to me no more because just like with this wives thing, you know what I'm saying? Possibly that's this person who I just mentioned. Possibly that's his thing, because he wants to do something, and he already revealed this to me a few months back. That he had this thing in mind he wants to do to make some money, and it very well could be that doing this thing he's going to break the Sabbath or something, and he wanted to kind of stop talking to me because he knows if he tells me he's doing something on the Sabbath or doing something else he shouldn't be doing. I'm like, okay, that's against the law. We shouldn't be doing that. So rather than to do that, he wants to stop having contact with me. You know what I mean? And that's okay. People come up, with these things to stop talking to me, and that's all right. Another brother I talked to, he's got about 3-4 women and something like that, and he told me when we were talking, and he said, so man, I ain't gonna be able to deal with these women I'm dealing with. I said, hey, I said, you got these women that you deal with, and you've been dealing with them for a while, what have you. I said, but it's only one that that's the closest to your heart. I said, the other ones, you probably like them. Maybe you like 1 or 2 more than you do 1 or 2 of the others. You know what I'm saying? But it's one that you really care about. And when I said that, he got quiet. He got quiet because he know that's the truth. You know what I'm saying? And, and I told him, I said, you have to tell me which one it is. Don't tell me, I don't want to know who it is. I said, but, it's one that's the closest to your heart. He got quiet. He couldn't deny it. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't deny it. See, but again, as I told, Yaakov and Yahadassah, we talk a lot. And like I said, it's really beautiful and it's gratifying to me. I hope it's such to the two of them. And I look at it as to all of our benefit, that Yah comes through them with things that, like I said, I hadn't necessarily seen or contemplated. And again, I look for that from any of you, because many of you call and we talk and I listen and then we discuss it. You know what I'm saying? And if you can bring me something that I haven't seen, great. You know what I'm saying? And, I've brought that out in the past and we'll continue to do so. This ain't about me. As I've said in the past, this is not about any of you. This is about Yah, our righteousness, the King. Ezekiel 36:22. And these things need to be examined objectively. Okay? And scrutinized. Right? Because, if any of you are like me, and I'm pretty sure many of you are, in the sense of wanting to serve Yah with all your heart and all your soul. Not that you're worshiping me like some people think or iterate. As I said in the past, I don't want anybody worshiping me. Okay? And if you by chance doing that, I would suggest that you stop that immediately and turn toward Jerusalem and humble yourself and ask Yah to forgive you. Okay? Simple as that. But if you're like me in the sense that you want to know what's right so that you could do what's right and be right in the sight of Yah, okay, where we can cleave unto Yah and love Yah with all our heart and soul. If you're like that, then quite naturally, right, you're looking at these things, and Yaakov and Yahadassah bring things to me that can you hold on for a second? Okay. And you know, if you are like me, then you really, you know, you want to, you know, understand what's going on and really see this book clear, right? I mean, that's why the Illuminated Edomite attacked it, to try to obfuscate, you know, the things that, you know, we need to know, right? To get back to Yah with all our heart and all our soul. So, you know, they've brought things and we analyze and we look objectively at them. And, you know, that's what all of us are supposed to be doing, right? Because again, it you know, it's to, you know, see clearly, you know, we're not competitive, you know, we're not trying to outshine each other, right? We're doing this again so that Yah can shine. That's our desire. No, that's my desire. That Yah can shine and get the glory and the notification and the praise and the honor that is due him, right? Because as I said before, we glory in his glory. So, you know, I don't see anything wrong with that. And anybody that, like I said, has a problem with that, that's their problem. So, again, I had something else I was going to say. That bell hit kind of threw me off, but maybe I'll bring it back to me. But like I said, you know, you know, like I said, with David, for instance, right? If that was his desire for these women, he got them. But when we look at it objectively, he got messed up. I mean, there's no denying that, right? He got his days cut off short. I mean, you know, brought the sword into his house for the rest of his life. Like I said, for maybe about the last 16, 17, 18 years of his life. It's just, you know, all because of his covetousness of this woman. And it very well, like I said, when you look at that 31st proverb, what did Bathsheba, what did she say to Solomon? Lemuel, right? Don't take on the ways of governors, huh? You understand? Taking up with these women that destroys, huh? Takes away the heart of a man. Right? So what do you want to talk about? Okay, y'all done saw some of them. She gonna roll back while some of y'all others is getting, and then I'll deal with some of these that's already been put up here.
I don't know how they be like just chatting.
And again, I saw some of the things earlier. You know, when somebody is attacking me, you know, that don't the rest of you don't get involved into that. I mean, you know, all I ever want to do is see what's in a person's heart. You know, and again, it doesn't hurt me. Okay. You know, because again, that's how they see it. And okay, like I said, they got to deal with that. You know, simple as that. And also, YHWH, I saw what you put up about the high priest, but you know, the high priest, again, the governor, it says governor in Yeremiah chapter 30. He's going to be brought to Yah just like Moshe was. Moshe was like the governor. Okay? When you go back there in Exodus and take a look at it, I think it's chapter 3, you know, Yah called Moshe, but then he also called Aharon, right? he called Aharon, and Aharon, you know, he was called up into the mountain. You know what I mean? Y'all talk with him too, right? So, I'm looking at the wrong book. Hold tight, and I can put you on just what I'm talking about. Cause Jacob and Yadasa, you know, they mentioned that in the conversations we had, which again, that, you know, it's true, you know, in chapter 4 at the back end, right? In verse 27, and Yah said to Aharon, go into the wilderness. See? So Yah came to Aharon then, right? And then we see that, you know, Yah basically, had basically, you could say, was making Aharon his high priest then, but he was coming through Moshe, and then he was bringing stuff through Aharon as well. Okay? You know, hold on for a second, will you? Yeah, so I'm back now. You know, it's warm today here. It's up around 60, 69, 70 degrees. So, you know, we got the people running around, and that's the kind of things they have to deal with in the summer, because we're on the corner, so they pass by and hit the bell. All right, so what is it? We're still here. Just hold on for a second. We're going through to see if anything is to be addressed, and if not, I'm sure it's something back to back, and we're just going reeling back. Okay, just going forward. Anybody that's got anything you put up that you want to be addressed, just put it back up there. We're going back to the end and just pick it up. And Rivka, I saw what you put up there about the battery. Electric battery costs $20,000. That what you had? I think I saw that. That's you know, it's not going to be a lot of people that's going to be able to afford electric battery once the original one goes out. If it's going to be $20,000, you know what I'm saying? So that's probably again why. I see you saw a report, $20,000 for a new battery for a Tesla. So that's probably why, again, Jacob the Rothschild said, and you know, it's getting to the place where it's not going to be a lot of people that have, you know, private transportation, you know, any kind of vehicles, but they ain't going to be able to afford it. Because that's a steep price, isn't it? That's even more than a new engine, a new engine in a car. $20,000. You looking for something specific?
Yeah, somebody asked something about Purim, and if you
again, Purim again is the 14th and the 15th of this month. Monday and a Tuesday.
They were gonna add it to the website. I don't know what they meant. That was Eli, I think, maybe. Yeah,
okay.
Can you speak?
Okay, you said Elijah, can I speak on the day for Purim? We'll add it to the website soon. Again, it's the 14th and the 15th of the month, just like we see in the book of Hadassah, Esther. Okay, what's next? Okay, El, peace and blessings to you as well. You say, is it possible that again, yeah, concubine, that's just the wife, that concubine stuff. I've mentioned that in the past, a wife is a wife is a wife, right? You said that is not of the same nationality as the husband, which is why 7:14, Menashe's second wife is listed as what is that? Aramite, whatever that is. I'm not and why Hagar, Keturah, Bilhah, Zilpah would be considered concubines. Again, they again, we know Bilhah and Zilpah were bondmaids. So was Hagar, bondmaids. Okay, so yeah, probably Amorite you trying to list there. Also, you say Simeon's wife is referred to as Canaanitish woman. Yeah, but still, a wife is a wife is a wife. Now you got bondmaids, right? That becomes your wife, and as we see in the law, right? A bondmaid, she, how does it go? Because she's a bondmaid, right? Certain things that apply to her different because she's a bondmaid. Like I said, like Zilpah and Bilhah. That's possibly why Reuben, he wasn't killed, right? Because Bilhah was a bondmaid, right? She was Rachel's bondmaid, all right? So she wasn't killed, see? And he wasn't killed. And that's according to the law, right? But still, he defiled his father's couch, right? And like Jacob and Yahadasa brought to me, it's a good possibility he was seduced, because this didn't happen until after Raquel transitioned. See? And it's possible, again, that, as Yahadasa brought to me, here we get another case where Bilhah's not really getting any attention like she wanted, right? So now here's Reuben, right? Probably around 17, 18 years old, right? Right in there. And she's not really getting attention from Jacob like she wanted, right? Because again, we know that Raquel gave Bilhah to Jacob because she said, maybe I can bear through her. Trying to be set, because Bilhah was her bondmaid, just like Zilpah was Leah's bondmaid. Okay? So, and that's a possibility. Maybe he was seduced, because it looked like he really regretted he had done that, later on, right? He regretted that he had done that, but still, as Yah says, by no means clearing the guilty. That's how come, again, we know it's something missing or something's been added in regards to, taking a man's betrothed or his wife. You got a betrothed wife that a man has not had conjugal relationship with, and then you got the wife he's had conjugal relationships with, right? And again, what's the situation with David and Bathsheba? Something's amiss there. Because we know Bathsheba didn't die. Like, person I saw put up earlier about David's daughter. She was raped by Ammon, right? And it looks like it was in the city, it wasn't in the field. Okay, now we see that she was desolate. She didn't have no children, right? But she wasn't killed. We know Ammon eventually was killed. David didn't have him killed, but Absalom had him killed, right? But now the sword's in David's house. So is it possible that David didn't have him killed? Because he knows this is because of what he's done. So the sword is in his house. See? So, like I said, that could be, right? Again, because David, he knows basically this comes from out of what he had done. The sword's in his house. So all this confusion going to be in his house now, because Yah is whipping him, is torturing him for what he had done. So, like I said, but these things are not going to truly get cleared up till we get back. Yah's the ones got to clear it up. He's the only one that can clear it up. Okay. All right. So I said, okay, whoever T61305AZ is, I don't know what that is, but peace to you and y'all bless as well. You say you referencing 19:5 in Jeremiah, 32:35 in Jeremiah, right? Using children as burnt offerings is an abomination. Okay. Yah did not command or mention nor did it enter his mind. Right. I question the content of Genesis 22:2. Yah would tell Abraham to offer Isaac, his son, as a burnt offering upon a mountain. But as we said in the past about that, or as I've said, when Yah brought that to Abraham, we see he went up, right? And it doesn't tell us other than it says Moriah or Moriah, the mount of Yah, which was Salem. And Abraham went up and he was going to offer him, but Yah stopped him, right? And again, as I said in the past, Esau's tampered with that, right? Because they got where Yah stopped Abraham and said, now I know that you would withhold nothing from me, right? Well, again, we know Yah didn't say that because there's nothing that Yah does not know. Everything is before Yah. What was said was, now Isaac knows that you don't put anything before me. That was a teaching moment for Isaac, not for Abraham. Abraham was already solid with Yah, gonna do whatever Yah said to do. That was a teaching moment for Isaac, okay? But, the illuminated Edomite changed that. Okay, but again, what makes us know it's not, Yah didn't say that to Abraham, because tell me what Yah doesn't know. I mean, in these articles that we do here, once a month, through the years, we do these newspaper articles to what? To substantiate and confirm the fulfillment of prophecy. Simple as that. That's why we do these newspaper articles. Okay, like I said in this session again today, right? 47:15, Yeshaya. 47:14, Yeshaya. It shall not be a coal nor a fire to warm at. Okay, why do you think, I know many of you have seen these fires that happen during the winter time, especially, I'm not talking about the fires out in California, all right, where the trees and everything being burned up, right? I'm talking about these fires in these homes and apartments. Why do you think they happen? Because when it gets cold, the people cannot afford gas heat. They're in debt. They can't afford it. And so what do? They find alternative means to try to heat their apartment or to heat their house, right? I know people steal gas. They try to steal it, right? They disconnect pipes. They do all kind of nonsense. I bore witness to this. This is why you get some of these explosions that you get, because people can't afford the gas heat. They get turned off. Now it gets cold. So they try to find a means how to heat the apartment, how to heat the house, right? They're using space heaters. And as I said in the past, when it gets real cold, the space heater is not going to do you any good. Okay? The space heaters only heat up a space. All right? And they're not going to heat up the whole house. See? And then mess around, people have these fires. Okay? So there's not a fire or coal to warm at. Not that what's needed to get heat is not available. They can't afford it. All right. So verse 15, all the merchants that have been with this, that built this country up from its youth, from its beginning, they've wandered everyone to its quarter. None shall save thee. Well, like I said, they started, the industry started leaving here 50 years ago. Okay. Now look, they're basically all gone. Okay. It's no major producers really here anymore. You got a few airline companies, possibly, they manufacture weapons here, right? But all of your clothing industry, products, just like what we're dealing with here now, these computers and whatnot, this stuff made it out of China. China's the main producer now, right? And then you've got these, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, right? They got industries in these places, Mexico, you know what I'm saying? That's producing. America doesn't really produce anything anymore. Okay? So, prophecy fulfilled. Again, the systematic destruction of this daughter of Babylon, this United States of America. Infrastructure, like I said, economically, it's collapsing right before our eyes. They try to mask it over with the pandemic, right? They try to mask it over with this Ukrainian situation. But it's collapsing. It's deteriorating. Right? It's sinking. Another article I just read in the session today, right? They said that the water on the coast of America is going to rise estimated 1 foot by 2050, and that could accelerate even beyond 1 foot. It could be 2 feet, 3 feet. As I said in the session, I don't think America's got 28 years left in it. That's me personally. Okay? Because again, we see at the back end of chapter 62, Yeshaya, Yah said he's going to hasten all of this in the time of his servant. Well, his servant is his movement that he's established, called by his name, predicated on his laws, statutes, ordinances, judgments, commandments, and precepts. So look at where we are. Look at what we're watching. Okay? I mean, I'm 71. It might be 1 or 2 in the room right now that I can see that's a little older than me. Most of you basically are younger than I am. So, but you old enough to know, many of you, right? You've seen America, if you're like, 45 years or better, you saw America at a certain stage, right? When it was, still, looking like it was top of the line, you know what I mean? But America really started deteriorating, like I say, 50 years ago when they opened up China. Huh? They had it in their plan then to move everything to China. They had already moved so much, of the industry to Japan. See, so now if you were born around the time I was, or right before I was, 1950 in the late 40s, you remember America in the 50s, in the 60s, when happy days, right? America was the dollar was king of currencies, right? When the dollar still was really a dollar, when it had the ultimate buying power. And that's before August of 1971. When a gallon of gas, when I started to learn how to drive, when I learned how to drive, I could take the car and get half a tank of gas for about $2.50. Okay? You know what I'm saying? $3. Half a tank of gas for $3. You follow what I'm saying? $3 won't even get you a gallon today. All right? You could get a real huge apartment here in Chicago, nice apartment, for like $150 a month. Today, $150 a month won't even get you a room. Okay? I mean, let alone, an apartment, just the average apartment that's, got all kind of pests and everything else. You probably have to, spend at least around $650, $700 a month. Okay? So, the dollar hasn't been inflated, like I've said in the past, right? You take, back then, you could get top of the line automobile for like $3,000, $3,500. Back in the late 60s. $3,000, $3,500 get you a Cadillac built like a tank. Okay? Today, $3,000, $3,500 won't even get you a used car. You understand what I'm saying? That's inflation. You got to spend about $45,000, $50,000 for a halfway decent vehicle today that's not built nowhere near like the car and the automobiles that were built back in the 60s, you know, and maybe the early 70s. That's when they started going AWOL, in the early 70s. Okay, building a bunch of junk, you know. So those of you who are like I said, you know, 45 years and younger, 50 years and younger, you don't really remember that. Okay, those of us 50 years, you know, that's over 50 years and older, we do. See? Okay, yeah, you see what YHWH 1955 put up on the screen. He worked for $2.25 an hour, and that was a good pay. That was a good pay back in the 60s. You know, maybe the early 70s, that was decent. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, the last job I had, I was making a little over $17,000 a year, and that's in the middle 70s. And that was a good salary back then. $17,000 a year now ain't nothing. Okay, I mean literally it's nothing. You see what I'm saying? So that's inflation, and that's the deterioration of the dollar. But again, the dollar, all these fiat currencies are going south. Okay, all of them, and that's what they're trying to mask and hide and try to blame it on Russia or whoever else they can blame it on. Blame it on the pandemic. See, that's how the Illuminated Edomite works. But again, I don't see all these Illuminati members in you know, I don't see them in harmony with what's going on. See, now it could be their plan, because again, we know that all the Illuminati members none of them want to see the way of Yah established. They don't want to see Yah established in Jerusalem. Okay? In that they're in harmony with. But, you know, we know recompense. You got to get recompense. And they've used divisiveness starting at the back end of the Greek dominion, right? As it says in chapter 8, Daniel, when the transgressors came to the full. That means, you know, it was after 161 BCE when the Illuminati members really start to understand the book of Daniel, when they can really see the book of remembrance in totality, right? That's why in the 2nd and the 1st century BCE, they was in the caves of Qumran, had the book of remembrance dissected, and they started working on it, examining it and attacking it. Okay? Because that was the Edomites in the caves of Qumran. That wasn't Israel. Okay? So, you know, they started the divisiveness at the back end of the, you know, well, maybe not even at the back end of the Greek dominion. When they got rid of Alexander, you know, the Illuminati members in Ptolemy got rid of Alexander. I have no doubt that, you know, the Illuminati told some of those other generals of the Diadochi what, you know, they blamed it on Ptolemy. Yeah, he killed y'all's king, you know what I mean, and started divisiveness there. You follow me? And we started seeing divisiveness big time in the Diadochi coming on up through time from that point on. Definitely in the 4th dominion of man, right? I mean, it's constant divisiveness all the way to this day. So my point again is you got to get recompensed, right? So that's why I say I look at the Illuminati members, they're starting to fracture. Because when we look at the 2nd chapter Daniel, right? The 2nd vision Daniel got in regards to the image of Nebuchadnezzar showing the 4 dominions of man, right? When it gets to the 4th dominion, the divisive dominion, Daniel chapter 7, what does it say? You know, the diversity was its strength and its weakness. Because you got to get recompense. And now the Illuminated Edomite is getting recompensed. You know, they got the cup of drunkenness in their hand. See, and anybody that's been with them, whether they descendants of Japheth or Ham or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Shem, they got the cup of drunkenness in their hand. And Yah said he was taking the cup of drunkenness out of the hand of the descendants of Jerusalem that have sought him out and turned him. Well, quite naturally, he's taking it out of the hand of the servant that he talks about in the 42nd chapter of Yeshaya, the 49th chapter of Yeshaya, the 53rd chapter of Yeshaya, right? And so now again, when the stone hits Daniel chapter 2, it starts to grow, right? Others start to come into the stone, and it stops being a stone and starts to being a boulder, starts to being a little hill, starts to being a little mountain, starts to growing into a mountain that eventually is going to fill up the whole earth. When that process is complete, then the whole earth will be the dominion of Yah forever. Okay, that's why you look right now. What is about 20 or so people in the room right now. Like I said earlier, we had about 30 or 40 that was on the stream. But, Esau's attacking the stream, so the stream stopped. Some that was possibly on the stream came into the room. Okay? Again, I don't know who's totally committed and submitted to Yah. I mean, it's like this brother I know, he told me, his daughter and one of his women, or his, woman, he said he had told them when they heard that I was taking on a second wife. And he said, yeah, he said, but I'm going to tell y'all now, if this woman ain't totally committed to Yah, she ain't going to stay with YHWH long. I can tell you that now. And then a couple of months later, when I took YHWH back, and they heard it, they said, he took that woman back. He said, I told you, if the woman, he said, what y'all got to understand, YHWH talks to these people on the phone. He said, he ain't never met them. You know what I mean? But he ain't never met them. He said, they think they know you. He said, but I'm telling you, he said, if they ain't about Yah, they ain't going to stay around YHWH. He said, I can tell you that now. This brother been knowing me about 25 years. And he's bore witness to that. Okay? So, and that's just the reality of it. I told this person the other day, I talk to people, all the time on the phone, but I don't know them. Okay? It's only 2 or 3 people that I've actually met. See? But I talk to them on the phone. See? But that's on the phone. See, again, you understand? If a person claims that they're about Yah, all right, and I most of the people I talk to make that claim. Okay? They say they're about Yah, they say they in pursuit of, they want to be about Yah. Okay, all right. I've had people in the past, going back years, told me they was going to be about the Creator with all their heart and soul forever and ever. They're nowhere to be found. Okay? Nowhere to be found. Some not even in existence anymore. They're not even alive. But they told me, for however many years they were about the Creator. As I've said before, if you're totally committed and submitted to Yah, he's going to keep you on the scene. He's going to keep you here because he's preserving you. Isn't that what we see over in Yeshaya? Huh? When Yah's talking about the messenger, well, the messenger ain't the only one that's going to be about Yah. And what does he say? I have preserved thee. In the time of trouble, I heard thee. In the day of salvation, I delivered thee. Right? I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant to the people. Right? Well, he ain't the only one that Yah's preserving. It's males and females, not only of Israel too. Right? Of descendants out of Yeph, descendants out of Ham, descendants out of Shem. He preserving different ones of them who's, committed to Yah and going to be committed to Yah. I mean, that's why I said here not long ago, look at these monarchies. Now, we know from the protocols, right, that the illuminated Edomite wanted to get rid of all the monarchies. Because what did they say in the protocol? These monarchies, these kings, the queens, they the last line of defense between us and the sheep. And the people are the sheep. right? That's what kept the Illuminati getting kicked out of these different nations coming up through time, because they was attacking the sheep with all kind of schemes and scams, just like we see in today, like with the Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, the paper, the fiat paper. They don't want people to having silver and gold, which was the medium of exchange, when you go back so far historically, right? They don't want people to have that in their possession. That's the real article, okay? So we'll give them paper that we can control its buying power, right? As we've said in the past, right? They might can hoard it. We don't necessarily know how much they got, but we can control their buying power. We can control its buying power. All right, so now they want to move, at least here in the West, the Illuminati Edomite in the West, they want to move people into cryptocurrency, where you have no control and no privacy. And they can shut you down individually or collectively at will. They put out all that nonsense about, cryptocurrency can't be controlled by the bankers and this and that and boop the buy. That's a bunch of nonsense. You heard the articles I read. I ain't the only one saying this. Okay? There's other people see as game. All right? You think they're going to put out something that you can have and they don't know nothing about it and they putting it out? Think about that. Does that make sense? Plus the fact they're going to tax it. Okay? You know what I mean? And like I said, Jacob de Rothschild, he said, we're going to digital currency. So that you think they're going to put something out that they can't control, that they're not going to know how much you got? You know what I mean? That's what it's all about with them, right? So you understand what I'm saying? That they don't want us to truly understand. They don't want us to know the truth of things. That's why, again, all this media bombardment about the Ukraine keep people scared. Novo Ordo Kale, right? You keep people scared and in fear where you can't think straight. Simple as that. See? Have people out here. That's why, as I said in the past, they got drugs out here, preponderance of drugs. Okay, they done made smoking marijuana basically legal, right? And it's, from what I hear, it's very potent. Matter of fact, I didn't have an article on that the last session before last. This marijuana is very potent, okay? Because again, keep them high. I mean, look at how they, the Sacklers. I know they just a tentacle of the Illuminati, right? The Sacklers, they let them for how long? Over 30 years, 40 years, just put out these opiates, and they knew the people was, getting these opiates and, shooting them up and snorting them up and everything else to get high. They don't care. They don't care. They want people to get high. Because now you're not of sound mind. They keep the liquor out here. Drink yourself crazy. They don't care. Because you can't think straight if you wine bibbing. I mean, it tells us about that in the book, doesn't it? Proverbs. Right? See? So they want you to get high. That's why they legalizing all this stuff and being restrained on, police enforcement. Like I said before, I can step right outside my door and stand there. I don't have to go nowhere. And before nightfall, if I can go out there early in the morning, just stand there. Before nightfall, I can get me some crack. I can get me some heroin. I can get me some marijuana. I can get some cigarettes. I can get some alcohol. I can get everything that'll kill me. Everything that's harmful to me. But I can stand out there probably 2 or 3 weeks and I can't get no good vegetables and no good fruit. Okay? You know what I mean? Anything that's going to really be beneficial to me. See? So they think about it. The attack is on. And we're the prey. And it hasn't just started. It started before many of you were born. It started before I was born. Like I said, you know, when they saw, you understand, what's the brother's name? I can't think of it now. In New York, started teaching that we Israel. You know what I'm saying? The very next year, that's when the Illuminati took Theodore Herzl movement to the land and said, "No, this is Israel right here." And that's Malachi chapter 1. Esau said, "We shall return and build how's it go? We shall return and build the desolate waste." And what did y'all say? "Yeah, you shall return and you shall build. But I will throw down, and you're going to be called, at some point, you're going to be called the borders of wickedness." And you got a lot of people calling them wicked today. You got even some Edomites calling them wicked. What they doing over there to our brothers and sisters, you know, of the Demona movement, of the so-called Palestinians who Israelites. And again, this is happening to our brothers and sisters because they idolaters. Just like we see over here. Just like we see any place we see Israel. Okay? You know, I saw somebody must have saw the same thing we saw, possibly on Democracy Now!, about the Nigerian brothers and sisters fleeing Nigeria because of all of the situation with Tigray and all of that. You know what I mean? That the Illuminati Edomite of the West through America keeps going on. You know, keeps going over there in the continent, right? Causing divisiveness, arming different factions to go and kill up people. You know what I'm saying? To get rid of elected officials over there that's not in harmony with him, that don't want to let the vaccines come up into their land. They gotten rid of, had them killed, put their puppet, you know, on the top of the governments in these countries, and the people rise up, and then they arm their puppets against the people, and the people start getting shot and bombed and killed and whatnot, and so the people run. They migrate, and they coming over into Europe, different places. Some of them was in the Ukraine. And then what did the brother say the other morning on Democracy Now! When they were talking? He said, you know, the Ukrainians, and again, this is the Edomite government, because you got the Edomite president Zelensky, right? He said that they're racist, they're prejudiced. We're trying to lead the country, get away from this shelling and bombs. He said, and they won't let us out. He said they let the white people out, but they won't let us out. They won't let us board the train. He said, and then we just pushed on past them. Then they threatened us. They turned their guns on us and threatened to shoot us. He said, we didn't care. And you understand? See? Now that brother who I saw talking very well could have been an Israelite. I don't know. He said he Nigerian. Just like you have brothers over here say they American. Brothers and sisters, right? You got them in France, say they French. You got them in England, say they English. You got them in Belize, they say they Belizean. You got them in Haiti, they say they Haitians, but they Israelites. A lot of them, I ain't gonna say all of them, but a lot of them Israelites, and they don't know it. And what did y'all say about that curse? You can't run from it. You go to the height of heaven, that curse going to be on you. You go to the depths of the sea, that curse going to be on you. You go in the cave, the curse going to be on you. A bear's probably waiting on you up in the cave. You break the hedge, it's going to be a rattler in there, or a cobra to bite you. You can't get away from that curse. Only by returning to Yah with all your heart and soul. Returning to this law with all your heart and soul. Embracing the law. Submitting to the will of Yah with all your heart and soul. Okay? So like I said, I'm sure they're putting the virus in these unclean things, because these unclean things can hold the virus and not die. You know, they might die initially, but they keep on, you know, turning them over, and then pretty soon they get a bunch of turkeys. You know, they get turkeys that can hold the virus. They get chickens that can hold the virus. You follow what I'm saying? Don't drop dead. They get pigs that can hold the virus, because these is unclean things anyway. Chicken and the turkey is hybrids, right? They can hold the virus. And sometimes they die, but some they get something they hold it. And then people eat that stuff, and then they got the virus in them. Right? You heard the article I just read out of this Women's Voice, right? What this Dr. Jensen said. You got natural, you understand, defenses in your body, especially if you eating right. And she, you know what I mean? If you know, like I said, if you eating according to the menu of Yah, without a doubt, Yah's got Mickey L watching over us. He watching over us. Because sometimes we're going to get some GMO here, GMO there. You follow me? But it's not, y'all's not going to let it basically hurt us because we ain't eating this unclean stuff. You know what I'm saying? Bee products. Be like a fly. You understand? It's unclean. But you tell these brothers and sisters that the bee products is no good. You ain't supposed to be eating bee honey. And they go all off the deep end. Well, it's honey all in the book, YHWH. You follow what I'm saying? Instead of analyzing it. Right? Just like over there in 1 Samuel chapter, what's that, chapter 14? That wasn't no bee honey that Jonathan stuck the end of his spear. That was sap from the tree. Huh? That's served. Okay? Hold on for a second. Let me just check this out. Yeah, so I'm back. So, you know, we got to look at these things objectively and analyze them. And, you know, like y'all said, you know, YHWH chapter 28, right? Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. See, the problem comes in when we become recalcitrant and stiff-necked and stubborn and egotist and hubris, and we can't take admonishment. We can't be corrected. We refuse to acknowledge when we're wrong about something. That's where the problem comes in. You follow me? I mean, I've been accused of saying, you know, people tell you, yeah, you think you know everything. I never said that. Matter of fact, when people have said that to me, I said, what's everything? I don't know what everything is. Because Yah equates us as his pleasant plants if we're totally committed and submitted. If we circumcise the foreskin of our heart to him, we're his pleasant plants, which means we're growing. Right? And it's always some more to grow, you know, some growth to be attained, growth to be had. What's next? Oh, okay, Othniel, peace to you as well, and y'all bless to your household. You said, do I know much about the Piso family? P-I-S-O. It seems as if the Seleucids are Amalekite Edomites, and when they wrote the New Testament, that Arius Piso, also known as Josephus, is the great-great-grandson of Herod, from the bloodline of I think you mean Mattathias. Josephus ben Mattathias Maccabee, right? Mattathias was the father of John Hyrcanus and Judas the Maccabee, the Hammer, by way of Antiochus Epiphanes, the fourth Mithridates. Now, I'm seeing the second part of this. You saying, and if that's so, then Esau Amalek seems to have been reigning in Syria ever since Yah brought forth Hadad against Solomon. Well, that's totally a different time frame, you know, Othniel, Solomon, and Hadad, right? And the man Ben-Hadad that was at war with Ahab, it seems that he was supposed to destroy them like Saul was supposed to do with the Amalekites, the king of the Amalekites, the Agag. Okay. You know, now, I say this, Othniel. You know, I have no doubt that the Amalekite Edomites that became illuminated, they had already been in Greece, you know, 142 years before their offspring came with Alexander in 332. Okay? Now, when we're talking about these Amalekites, you understand, it's you know, maturated throughout their, you know, and it's a continual hatred, right, that goes through their offspring. And we see that in Exodus chapter 17, when Yah says, right, he was going to have war with Amalek from generation to generation. We see it manifested, is the word I'm looking for, in Ezekiel chapter 35, right? They held a perpetual hatred. So it's going to be manifested in their children. Okay, so now we got to keep that in mind. So when we see that, the Amalekite, as I said in the past, hold on if you can hear me. We got a disconnect or something going on. Okay, now again, we see that I have no doubt, I've never read this before, but I know it was the Amalekite Edomites that brought this thing to Ptolemy in getting rid of Alexander. You understand? Ptolemy had his reasons why he wanted to get rid of Alexander, because he wanted to be Alexander. All right? The illuminated Edomites wanted to get rid of Alexander because it was Alexander, the king, that was stopping them from attacking Israel, that was still in and around Jerusalem and in the land of Israel. Okay? So they had their different reasons. You understand what I'm saying? Because the illuminated Edomite, they looking long term. They ain't looking short term. And as I said earlier, they wanted to get rid of the monarchies, but Yah stopped them from getting rid of all these monarchies like they wanted to do. Okay? Because why? What does Yah say? You understand? In 49th chapter, Yeshaya. In the 52nd chapter, Yeshaya. In the 60th chapter, Yeshaya. Right? The monarchies are coming to get the movement of Yah, to bring it to Yah in the sight of everybody on the earth. Again, that's Daniel 7 verse 13. Right? Because he's going to humble this Amalekite Edomite that runs the west, the Leviathan, as he's called in Yeshaya chapter 27. He's going to humble him like he humbled Amenophis II. Because this Leviathan that controls the land of Israel and controls the west, basically, right? At least America for sure, and more likely England and France too, and maybe one or two, Germany, you know what I mean? You understand? He gonna humble him, where he's gonna make peace with Yah, just like Amenophis II did. Because he's got to cause the vineyard of red wine, which is the Jerusalem movement, to take root in Jerusalem. Now, once this is done, more likely, like Amenophis II, he'll get Yah harden his heart again, and he'll turn against Yah again. You understand what I'm saying? But he's got to be humbled, and this has to take place. Okay? Again, Micah 7:15, like according to the coming out of Egypt. It's very similar to that. But it's also similar to when Yah brought, the remnant back who wanted to come back, right, out of Babylon. It's going to have similarities to that, because again, we see it was multiple kings involved into that. Cyrus was the great king, but we also see, he had 120 kings over 120 different provinces, because we see Darius the Mede is mentioned in different situations, right? Okay, so as far as, this situation you're saying, the Amalekites hooked into Herod and whatnot, hooked into the Greeks. I'm not doubting that they mixed with the Greeks. Okay? I'm not doubting that at all. But that's what they do. You follow what I'm saying? They try to get through marriage and get, hegemony through marriage, that way, as we've seen coming up through these other monarchies, right? The English monarchy and others, right? So, but Yah has made these monarchies stay on the scene. He hasn't allowed the illuminated Edomite to get rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of so many, the French monarchy, the German monarchy, right? And some other ones. But you still got different ones around, in Denmark and Sweden, England, the UK, right? Belgium, right? The Netherlands, Norway, right? They all got monarchies. Still to this day, the Spanish got one too, right? So, I don't know, where you got this information from. Again, I know you got to be real suspect about Josephus, because Josephus is Edomite. Okay? So, what's next? All right, Kavia, peace and y'all bless to you as well. You say in 31:50 Genesis, Laban made Jacob swear that he wouldn't take on any more wives besides his daughters before Yah. Could it be said that 2 wives is the limit considering Laban knew the law? Well, Laban wasn't about the law. I ain't gonna, he wasn't about the law at all. He was a snake, and he was an idolater. All right. And again, I mean, we know that Jacob was given Bilhah and Zilpah. So, he had 4 wives, right? Even though the other 2 were bondmaids, basically up under the control of, Raquel and Leah. So, you know what I mean? I just look at that situation with Laban. Laban, he was upset. He was angry. I mean, because now he's been reduced to basically, he was impoverished. He wasn't, maybe not totally, impoverished, but he wasn't nowhere near like he had been. You know what I'm saying? Yah had, as it says, he had taken everything that Yah had given him through the work and the sweat of Jacob and given it to Jacob, right? And so, as you see Leah and Raquel, when Jacob told them he was leaving, how did they respond? Hey, ain't no substance left in our father's house. We going with you. See? So he was I just look at it, he was upset. He was angry, very angry. You know what I mean? I mean, because as it says, Jacob was supposed to stay there another year under the contract, but Yah told him to leave because, again, he had already saw how Laban and Laban's sons' countenance had changed towards him. See, and again, this is the similar thing we see, with Isaac, and as I saw somebody mention, they were jealous of Abraham. Yeah, they were jealous of Abraham, the Canaanites. They were stopping up his wells, right? But Isaac even blew up bigger than Abraham. I mean, you go back there and read it. I mean, we know it all stems from Abraham per se, but Isaac was all about Yah, until he got off, kind of got off course for a while there. Evidently, where it looks like Yoshi brought to me, he probably had diabetic blindness. He's eating that fat to that meat. And then he kind of got off it. And he's putting himself before Yah because, again, he's favoring Esau. And he knew Esau wasn't about the law. Like I said before, I mean, we don't actually see this in the book. But, I mean, we still see this kind of thing going on today. I mean, this is just, to me, it's an understanding. When Isaac, for instance, blessed Jacob thinking it was Esau, right? And we know Jacob was going to get the blessing anyway. This is because, as we said in the past, Rebecca messed up. She got ahead of Yah. She should have took it to Yah, but she came up with her own plan, right? Okay, so she got ahead of Yah. Jacob was going to get the blessing, but now he done lied and deceived, and he knew it was wrong. We see that, but he did it anyway. He listened to his mother, and now he set himself up for recompense later on down the line, which we see he got 7 years later. But the point being is, once Jacob was sent away, right? You understand, when Rebecca got the word that, Esau is he's thinking he's got it planned to kill Jacob when Isaac died. So she got Isaac to send him away, for another reason, to get a wife of their own people, but to send him away. And then when he left, what Isaac put on Rebecca? Why you let that boy come in here? That wasn't Esau. And when he said what he said, what Rebecca said? She read him, right? Just like sisters do to this day. Right? Because again, she knows what's right, so she put it on Isaac, and as I said earlier in the session, when you really look at it, Isaac had to take heed to that, You know what I mean? If he's going to be about, and he probably, that's when he got himself together. He saw himself. She read him. He couldn't refute it. And then he had to humble himself before Yah, because we know his sight was bad. But now when Jacob comes back 20 years later, Isaac is still there. And more than likely, he done corrected himself. His sight probably got even better. Right? And then he lived another 23 years after Jacob came back, where those children could have this, you know, this liaison with their grandfather. Huh? And then Isaac lived another 5 years longer than Abraham. And we see that, you know, Isaac, Yah was blessing Isaac from the outset, because like Jacob and YHWH brought to me a few years back, you know, when I was thinking it was Isaac got off center that caused the situation, you know what I mean, for it taking so long for Rebecca to bear. But they brought it to me now. It had to be Rebecca. She's coming from the house of idolatry. When they said it to me, it clicked. It made sense. Isaac didn't kind of get off till later. But she's the one coming from the house of idolatry. She had to get in harmony with Yah. That's why, again, you know, as I said in the past, Leah, she clicked into Jacob initially. You follow me? She started, because she loved it, but he didn't want her. He wanted Raquel. But Leah clicked in. She started learning that law from the beginning. We don't see her making a misstep per se, do we? And then Yah was opening up her womb, bam, 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 right? She's the one activating. She didn't take any idols with her. It was Raquel that took the idols. See, so I mean, this is an understanding, because the top and bottom line at the end of the day is who's totally committed and submitted to Yah. That's what it's all about. Who's totally committed and submitted to Yah? Okay? Who's still growing? Who's hasn't gotten so hard-hearted and adamant and prideful and recalcitrant where they can't be admonished, where they can't acknowledge that they've been wrong about something, where they can continue to grow? Like I said, Yah refers to us as his plants. Now, those of us who are circumcised in the foreskin of our heart to Yah, we are his pleasant plant, because we're going to be able to receive correction. And Yah loves those who he corrects. Isn't that in the book? But if one has become so hard and prideful and recalcitrant where they cannot receive correction, now you like Saul. Now you like Esau. Now you like Uzziah. And we know what happened to them, right? What's next? Okay, Joshua, 1955, he says 2 Samuel 12, 1 through 7. Did Yah, he sent Natan in verse 1. He spoke through Natan starting in 7. And if so, this is what Yah allowed to happen without punishing David until he messed with Uriah's wife. Okay, yeah. And so, let me just go there. And because I don't want to, you know, get anything awry, because I know he's first telling him what Yah did for him, right? When he was, you know, in harmony with Yah per se, right? I mean, you know, again, everybody sins it sometimes to a degree. See, again, you know, like I have to tell these Christians when they call with the nonsense, you know, all sins don't warrant death. You understand what I mean? Certain sins just warrant a whipping, a chastisement, but not to be killed for, right? So now, okay, this is the parable that, you know, was put on David, right? And so it's referring to Uriah. He only had one, right? He only had one wife or one lamb, and he was like a poor man. He had one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, right? And it grew up together with him and with his children. See, so now it's like intimating that Uriah, he was older. He had a wife, already. And his wife more than likely had transitioned. He had children. And so now, this is like Bathsheba, you understand? Like I said, we don't know, according to the law, whether she was his betrothed or whether he had conjugal relationships with her, which I don't think he had conjugal relationships with her at that point. She was like betrothed, maybe, right? But they hadn't had intercourse. That's why he wouldn't go down to his house, right? Because he know if he have intercourse with her, now he's supposed to stay there with her a whole year. And the fact that if she's really his wife, he's supposed to stay with her anyway. So maybe she wasn't even necessarily his betrothed at the time. Maybe that's why she didn't die. See, because we got to figure they knew the law, right? You understand what I'm saying? Got to figure they knew the law. You see what I'm saying? And again, when you look at it a little later on, right? Ahithophel was her grandfather. She was grandfather, right? And we know Ahithophel knew the law. That's why David asked Yah to confound the counsel of Ahithophel. Later on over there, was that chapter 15? You understand 2 Samuel? When he was on the run from Absalom, he asked Yah to confound the counsel of Ahithophel, because Ahithophel was all about Yah until he wasn't. Right? Until he wasn't. And in the situation with Dawid, that's when he went against Yah, because he went against Yah's anointed, because as it was El brought up here a few years back, he probably was upset. You understand? Because he knows that, David had basically raped his granddaughter. Because I'm pretty sure David raped her. All right? You understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, like I said, maybe she wasn't exactly Uriah's. Definitely wasn't. I don't think he had conjugal relationships with her yet. But maybe she wasn't even exactly his anointed. His betrothed. Like I said, so, that's the only way I can see that she wasn't killed, according to what we got in the law over here in Deuteronomy chapter 22. So, and David did get punished, for murdering Uriah, right? And we can see that this situation, his lust, his covetousness of Bathsheba ended up, that's what brought the sword into his house for the rest of his life. Because we're not supposed to covet another man's anything, right? Another man or woman, we ain't supposed to covet our neighbor, man or woman. We ain't supposed to covet anything that, another person has. That's against the law. What's next? Are you seeing everything?
Mm-hmm. I ain't gone to the bottom, okay?
Hold on. Okay, Shujeshub, you say Yah bless, and Yah bless to you too and your household. You say Judges 11:30 was Jephthah considered presumptuous in his vow that affected his daughter's life. Will you please go over that again? As I said in the session, Yah's not accepting any human sacrifice. Period. Jeremiah chapter 19. So that's been fooled with. Okay? Yah is not accepting any human sacrifice. Again, when we go to Leviticus chapter 1, it's got to be of the cattle, the herd, of the flock. When we go through other parts of it, and over in the Numbers, what? Yah accepts flour as an offering. He accepts incense. He accepts silver and gold and jewels, right? But he does not accept human sacrifice. So there's no way that Jephthah could have offered his daughter, and that would have impugned him in the sight of Yah, not endeared him. So that's been tampered with. See? Again, Esau has tampered with this book. This is why, again, what does it say? Yah said he was only a little displeased with us, but the adversary, the enemy, has forwarded the affliction. Forwarded the affliction. You know, he's exacerbated, you know, he's done his best to make it even worse. Like it says in the 83rd Psalm at the top, right? What did all the tabernacles of Edom say? Let's deal craftily against Yah's hidden ones. That was all of them. They said the tabernacles of Edom. Let's deal craftily against Yah's hidden ones. In other words, they done cut themselves off. Let's keep them cut off forever. Now, that's their thing. Like I said about that Edomite that called here in December 2007, called back in 2010 in December. And that time we had a conversation, and he told me he was Illuminati. He told me he's out of the Caucasus Mountains. He was hot. He was like, so you a prophet, huh? I said, you never heard me say that. He was going all off. She was on the phone. She was listening to him. And he was like, you understand? He said, don't you know we'll destroy the whole earth before we allow a black man to sit on it? So what is he really saying? We'll destroy the whole earth before we allow Yah to be established in Jerusalem and the seed of David to be sitting on that throne. That's what he's really saying. He was hot. Okay? Like I said, when I hung up, Yada came into the bathroom about 50 seconds later. She said, he just hung up. He was still talking. Because I was in the tub. I wanted her to hear it. See? You follow me? Because he's smoking. And like I said in the past, he probably regretted that later on. He probably regretted that he even called. Because that's underscoring what? Yeshaya chapter 28 at the back end of the chapter, when they are vexed when they hear the report. See, because they understand the report. That's why in 53rd chapter, Yeshaya, what does it say? Who have believed, said what is it? To whom is the arm of Yah revealed? Who have believed our report? And to whom is the arm of Yah revealed? Question marks. But they understand the report. They're vexed by it. And they're supposed to be vexed by it. Because this is Yah repaying them to their face before he brings judgment on them. This is part of the judgment. They got to hear the report, they understand it, and they're vexed by it. And once they hear it, they cannot shake it. They wake up with it, they go to bed with it, they carry it all through the day from then on. Just like Hezekiah. When y'all told him Hezekiah, he had 15 years to live, that was it. What did Hezekiah say? I go the rest of my life in the bitterness of my soul. Because he counting the days. He can't get no joy out of any particular day. Because anything that happens that gave him, jubilation, that thought is going to come into his head. I'm going to die in 14 years and 2 months and 2 days. I'm going to die in 13 years and 5 months and 1 day. I'm going to die in 10 years. And you know what I mean? He counting the days. He can't get no joy out of anything. Well, that's the same thing with these Edomites. When they hear the report, they're vexed by it. See? Because they have to be revealed before they're judged. Isn't that what it's saying there at the back end of 28, Yeshaya? The cover is too narrow that they can wrap themselves up in. The bed is too short that they can stretch out on. They can't get comfortable anymore after they hear the report. You understand? The one chapter about it. What did y'all say? How are thy hidden things, secret things sought up and searched out, O Esau? The same thing what we see in the 47th chapter, Yeshaya, when it's talking about the daughter of Babylon. You understand? What did y'all say? I shall not meet thee as a man. Let down thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, cross over the rivers, come sit in the dirt, O virgin daughter, for you shall no longer be called the lady of kingdoms, or the lady of dominions. Because I'm gonna uncover you and show you for the whore that you are. And that's what Yah's been doing through this movement from day one. revealing the Edomites, revealing the daughter of Babylon, talking about what these Edomites have done, who they are, from day one. You don't have to believe me. Just go to the website and go to the first show we did with Mark Sims back there, July 16th, 2006. And y'all steadily been revealing more and more and more and more and more through the years. That's why, again, it's something when I see these people, when you get to talking about something and they get, angry, they get adversarial, instead of looking at a thing objectively and talking about it. What's the harm? But they get all adamant and angry and nasty, and you know what I'm saying? And start, attacking, taking an ad hominem stance. Not a stance predicated on objectiveness, but totally subjective. Getting all emotional. Just because, for instance, I say that I talk with Jacob and Hadassah, and a lot of times your Hadassah not talking, then they go, yeah, you're listening to a woman. Aren't we supposed to listen to our women? And I'm going to tell you something. Is another brother, he said to me, when I was telling him here, I don't know about last month, this conversation that I was having with Jacob and Hadassah, he said, well, their name and number should be on the website. And I told him, I said, well, they don't want that. And he was talking to me like possibly, I'm trying to hide them or whatever. And so I brought it to them. I said, and they like, no, they like, no. They said, because they say, you the governor, you supposed to be there. You the one, Spring, we just talking with you. We don't want to be out there like that. I said, yeah, let me catch all this flag. They like, we laugh about it. But they said, no, you out there, you supposed to bring it. I said, okay, no problem. I mean, y'all has made me the face of this movement. I don't have no problem with it. Right? I'm not puffed up about it, arrogant about it. Hey, it's a job. And I do my best to do the job the best I can, the best Yah allows me and guides me to do. Okay? You don't hear me talking about I'm the governor, you're supposed to do all that nonsense. I'm open to discussions. I'm doing my best to grow. I'm doing my best to aid and abet everybody else out there who's in pursuit of Yah, who wants to be about Yah with all their heart and soul, to aid and abet them, so we working together. And you got different ones out there, we work together like this. You follow me? I have conversations with different people all the time. All the time. Like I told some people yesterday, Benaiah and Zakir, we was on the phone talking. And I told them, I said, hey, generally, I'm talking to people every day. Sometimes I'm talking to people behind one another all day. Okay? Sometimes it's rare. I might go 3-4 days, don't talk to nobody. That's rare. But I'm generally, somebody's calling every day. Just like you just heard the phone ring earlier. and you understand, people want me to call them after the session because they know generally after the session I'm talked out. But they want me to call them because it's something they want to talk about. Something they want to convey to me or whatever. Okay, all right. You know what I'm saying? But that's okay. You understand, like I done said in the past, years earlier and since. I'm not afraid to be wrong. I've been wrong before any of you, before y'all righteousness was even set up or thought about. I've been wrong. So I'm not afraid to be wrong as long as it's in righteousness. I'm not uplifting me. I just want to bring all this nonsense to an end. I want to live in all them blessings that Yah said he got in store for all of us, not only Israel, but descendants out of Ham, Shem, and Japheth too. You understand who's going to be about Yah? I want to live and enjoy as much as my time on earth as I can in peace and abundance of peace and truth and righteousness and equity and true prosperity. See, it ain't about me. It's about Yah. That's who it's about. What's that? Hold on. We did that one. Yeah, so, you know, we're all out there. We're supposed to be reading, study, praying, and doing, and, you know, looking at this book from every angle. Every angle. Because like I said, you know, when the brother brought to me about, over there in 2 Samuel chapter 12, what did y'all say? He brought David them wives. He gave him his master wives. So how could, multiple wives be wrong? You know, he was hostile. So I didn't even say to him, well, again, doesn't y'all, according to Jeremiah 17, give the desires to people, the desires of their heart? That don't mean it's right. Because, they got this desire. Y'all give it to you, You understand? When you get those adverse repercussions and consequences, then you see that. Isn't that what we read about in this book? I mean, evidently Saul wanted to be king. He got to the point where he thought he was the king. That was his desire. Don't we see that over there in 1 Samuel? When it says that Samuel came and gave Saul the word of Yah, thus saith Yah, boom, 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 boom. And what did like we said in the past, when Saul went to walk away, Esau put in there that Yah gave Saul another heart. Yah don't do that. Yah gave Saul another spirit because of what was in his heart. Now that's Jeremiah chapter 17. He wanted to be king. And so y'all like, all right, isn't that what our forefathers asked for? In 1 Samuel chapter 8, we want to be like the other nations. We want a king of flesh. Right? Samuel was bothered by that. Doesn't it say that? And then y'all came to him and said, don't you be messed up. They rejected me, not thee. But you showed them the manner of a king. And Samuel did that, a fleshly king. And Samuel did that. And what did the people say? We don't care. We want a fleshly king. So that's what they wanted. And that's what Yah gave them. And then later on, what do we see? Is it over there in Hosea? Yah said, I gave you a king in my anger. I took him away in my wrath. But Yah gave them what they desired. So couldn't that be the same thing with David? Yeah, David desired maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of Saul's younger wives that looked good to him or whatever. He desired. So when y'all took Saul out, then David, maybe he took 2 or 3, because it's plural, right? Maybe he took 2 or 3 of them concubines, them wives that Saul had. They came over and became David's wives. But did it do him any good? And again, when I say that, and again, what does it say in Deuteronomy? What's that, 17? Not supposed to multiply wives. Right? Not supposed to multiply horses or silver and gold. All right. Again, don't we see this kind of action to this day? Like I said, with these, different Israelite men and Caucasian men. You understand what I'm saying? You get a lot of money, and first thing they do is go out and buy 6 or 7, 8 or 10 vehicles. Then they start dealing with a lot of women. And then they end up broke or in some kind of trouble. I mean, we see it all the time. Weakened. Isn't that what Bathsheba, you understand, the 31st proverb? Read it. She wrote that, said that, said that to her son. Evidently, Solomon wrote it down. She said it to him. I mean, y'all all got the book right there, right? Huh? 31st proverb. The words of, so Solomon wrote it, right? The words of the governor, Lemuel, that was Solomon's other name, right? The prophecy that his mother taught him. Okay, hold on for a second. Back if you listening, okay? Okay, I'm not answering that. The person can call me back if they want to. But listen to this. What my son and what the son of my womb and what the son of my vows. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroys governors. And it can destroy kings, but this is talking about the governors of Jerusalem, of Israel. That's what she said, right? And then she goes on to talk about a virtuous woman, right? So, you know, we got to take all these things into account. What's next? And again, you know, y'all got, any of you out there that's listening, you got something to say, put it up there on the screen. You know, so everybody can see it. You know, but you got people out here, they got so much entanglements in their heart. It's hard for them to grasp stuff. It's hard for them to understand things. You know? To look inside things. I mean, because like Solomon said, nothing new up under the sun. We still see these things going on today. Right? Okay, Israelite 007. In YHWH 24:2, it says the other side of the flood, he was not talking about the flood of Noah time, as was said. He was talking about a river or a sea, not an actual flood. If the Strong's 5104 being used, it could be the Euphrates River, since Abraham's father was Assyrians. Well, they weren't Assyrians, they were Syrians, not Assyrians. Okay? So go back and check that, you'll see that. It said used in Psalm 78:44. Okay, well, again, the other side of the flood about Noah's time, as was said, he was talking about a river. He was not talking about, okay, wait a minute, 24:2, YHWH. Let me go there and take a look. Okay, YHWH said unto all the people, thus saith the Lord Yah, or Yah, the strong of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nahor, and they served idols. Yeah, again, he's talking about in the time of Abraham, right? And his fathers, right? And when it says on the other side of the flood, you're saying it's talking about the Euphrates or river. I just look at it as talking about, you know, on everything that started that took place after the flood was over. Okay? That's how I'm seeing that. Now you say 78 Psalm, verse 44. Let me go there and take a look at that. Okay, 78, 4:44. Okay, and had turned their rivers into blood and their floods. Well, that's talking about Egypt in verse 44. So I don't know, you know, I don't know what your point is there, because verse 44, that's talking about Egypt. And if you go to verse 43, it tells you how he had wrought his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zoar. So that has nothing to do with chapter 24, YHWH, you know, in regards to on the other side of the flood, verse 2. Because like I said, we know Abraham came out of Ur of the Chaldees, which is right there south of the Euphrates. And his fathers, you know, His forefathers were idolatrous, but he wasn't. He was about Yah. And it could very well be he kind of like us. He raised as a root out of dry ground, but sought Yah out. Right? Just like we have sought Yah out. We roots out of dry ground, basically, but we have sought Yah out. I know I have, and I know there's plenty of others in the room who have, right? But basically, we roots out of dry ground because I was raised in Christianity. Yada was raised in Catholicism. Okay? She went to Catholic school, grammar school, and high school. All right? I went to, but like I said, we was raised Christians. And like I said in the past, when I got to be about 12, 13 years old, I think it was around 12, my mother, she's like, we're going to church. And I was like, she said, what's the matter? I said, yeah, because I was going now to the big church where it was boring as heck. It wasn't like Sunday school. And she was like, well, you don't want to go? I said, no, because it's boring. I don't do nothing but go to sleep. She said, well, you don't have to go. And I stopped going. Simple as that, and that's what y'all had in store for me. I didn't have nothing for church. I definitely didn't have anything for no Caucasian with no blonde hair and blue eyes. You gonna tell me he God? I never went for that, ever. See? So, root out of dry ground. But again, I didn't start finding out who I was until 1974. Simple as that. And I've talked about that. What's next? See, and again, as I was saying to some people here the other week, it started out a pinhole of light, but I didn't turn away. I wasn't rebellious. I kept going toward that pinhole of light, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's still getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like I said, that's why we do the newspaper articles. Substantiates prophecy. If you understand, and I talk about it, if you understand prophecy in this book, it substantiates prophecy. That's why we do the newspaper articles. Just like when I showed, this drought that's 22 years in the making, right, out west here in the daughter of Babylon, United States of America. And again, when I showed the picture of the ground so dry it just done cracked all up, right? And I referred you to what? 42nd chapter Yeshaya. What did y'all say? I'm gonna dry up the pools. Again, this drought ain't just happening here in the daughter of Babylon, United States of America. They got droughts in other places of the world where water is dissipating and water is very, very scarce. Over in the land of Israel, water is scarce. Okay? So, and it's supposed to be like that, right? Because Yah said he was going to make the land desolate. And again, the desolate doesn't mean nobody there. The desolate means, too, in ruination. And that's how the land is. Where Yah said even our enemies are going to be, in marvel of how the land is in such ruination. Okay? What's next? Okay, Ear. Peace and Yah bless, bro. You say it looks like Caleb had 4 wives. 1 Chronicles 2:18-19 and 1 Chronicles 2:46-48. And it also looks like Ezra's son Mered had 3 or 4 wives. Okay. Like I said, again, we know Caleb was all about Yah, right? Okay. So, like I said, we just examining this now. You understand what I'm saying? We know Caleb was all about Yah. Now, Ezra was about Yah. I don't know about his son. I can't just say. We know that they started to going AWOL around that time. So I don't know about this Mered. Okay? If he was totally, we know Ezra was all about Yah, and we know Caleb was all about Yah. So that's why I said again, when we look at this Yeshaya chapter 4, right? With 7 women going to grab other women. Okay, are the women going to be, as we see there in Yeshaya chapter 3, what did y'all say you're going to do to the daughters of Zion, right? Again, this is going to probably spread to other women as well, of other nations, right? Are they going to be humble? Because these women got to be humble today. You understand what I'm saying? Because many of these women today are egotistical and arrogant, a hard-headed, recalcitrant. So, these women got to be, as men do too, got to be humbled, right? The meek are going to inherit the earth. The humble right? Not the arrogant, prideful, and obstinate recalcitrant, stiff-necked and stubborn. That's why the world's in the situation it's in today, right? So now, are these women going to get to the place where they stop going to be competitive and acrimonious toward one another? Huh? Are they going to be like, this is my man and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. We got to wait and see, right? See, but even though you mentioned it, they had what, 2 or 3 or 4 wives. We still don't see 6, 8, and 10, right? You understand what I'm saying? Except with David and maybe a few others. But again, what good did it do him? Didn't do him good at all. And if any of you in the room who are calling here, I'm not going to stop again until, I'm finished. So you can stop calling and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about later. If you're in the room and you got something you want to tell me, put it up in the room and I'll deal with it now. Everybody can hear it. Okay, Anthony, you say, I'm not sure about Yah's tribute in Numbers 31:40. Someone asked me about it recently. I wasn't sure about how to answer with this particular tribute concerning people. Okay, Numbers 31:40. Okay, let's take a look at it. Okay, 31:40, and it says, and the answers were 30,500, which of Yah's tribute was 61. That's verse 39. And the persons were 16,000, of which Yah's tribute was 32 persons. 30 and 2 persons. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Let's see what this is talking about. Okay, so I'm going back here. I got Mark, verse 16. Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against Yah in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yah. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. But all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. This looks like what might this be talking about? The and the persons were 16,000, of which Yah's tribute was 30 and 2 persons. Okay, so but all the children that have not known men by lying with him, and do ye abide without the camp 7 days, whatsoever hath killed any person, and whosoever hath touched any slain, purify both yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and purify all your raiment, all that is made of skins, and all the work of goat's hair, and all things made of wood. And Eleazar, that he was the high priest, said unto the men of war which went to the battle, this is the ordinance of the law which Yah commanded Moshe. Only the gold, silver, and the brass, and the iron, and the tin, and the lead, everything that may abide the fire, you shall make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Okay, it had to be had to be purified, right? Nevertheless, it shall be purified with the water of separation. And all that abides not the fire, you shall make go through the water. And you shall wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you shall be clean afterward. You shall come into the camp. These are the ones who went into battle and did the killing and touched the unclean stuff, right? And Yah spake unto Moshe, saying, take the sum of the prey that was taken, both of man and of beast, and Eleazar the priest and the chief fathers of the congregation, and divide the prey into 2 parts, between them that took the war upon them who went out to battle, and between all the congregation, and levy a tribute unto Yah of the men of war which went out to battle. 1 soul of 500, both of the persons, and of the bees, and of the asses, and of the sheep. So that's why you get the 32 here and 40, right? Out of the 16,000. That's what it looks to me, right? That's why the tribute of Yah was 30 and 2 persons. That's what it looks to me. But let's keep reading. It says, verse 29, take of it their half, and give it unto Eleazar the priest for an heave offering of Yah. And of the children of Israel's half thou shalt take 1 portion of 50 of the persons of the bees, of the asses, and of the flocks, and of all manner of beasts, and give them unto the Levites, which keep the charge of the tabernacle of Yah. You hear that? See? So this tribute of 32 persons to Yah looked like they were to aid and abet the Levites. Verse 30. And Moshe and Eleazar the priest did as Yah commanded Moses, and the booty being the rest of the prey which the men of war had caught was 600,000, 75,000 sheep, okay, and 72,000 beeves, and 61,000 asses, right? We know a score is 20, right? So 3 is 60, right? I'm just reading it, the total, right? Verse 35, and 62,000 persons in all. So there's your 30, what was it? There's your 32 persons. Okay, there's your 32 persons. Verse 35, right? It was 32,000 persons in all of women that had not known man by lying with him. So Yah's tribute out of that was 32, 32 women. Okay, that's how I see that, right? That was Yah's tribute. Okay, and so you just keep reading times and things get clearer. Sometimes we have to counsel, and counsel is always good. Nothing wrong with counseling, right? And because if everybody's about Yah, with all their heart and soul, and you might not see it the first time or the second time you counsel. Might take 3 counsels, might take 5. That's in Yah's hands. So, what's next? Roll that back. Let me see what Rivka got there. Roll it back some more. There you go. Rivka, I see what you got about Taiwan. Taiwan owns 82% of the market on the microchips, and 8% is owned by South Korea Samsung. They can cut all tech for all nations in a heartbeat. I hope they do. Yeah, but now, from what I understand, again, and China is not going to allow Taiwan to be separated from them, and that's probably why, right? But you know what I mean? I just look at this microchip thing, as I said in the past. It's game. I mean, they know people are in debt. Like I said, and I've mentioned it more than once over the years, last few years. One of the biggest debts is vehicle debt, right? Whatever that vehicle is, automobile, SUV, what have you, right? That's one of the biggest debts it is, around $1.67 trillion. And I've read articles in the past where, again, people, most people is 2-3 months behind, 4 months behind on their automobile, a vehicle note. So, the whole thing is in humongous debt. So why would they keep letting people, come in and change vehicles and they already got debt? You know what I'm saying? And it's probably, because pretty sure I read an article here the other year before last, something where they said they couldn't repossess all the vehicles because they don't have no room for them. So they're just letting people ride around, with their vehicles behind in payments because they don't have no room for them anyway. Right? So I look at it, they looked at it's a good time to switch over to electric. Right? Just like I read the article in this session, right? Ford, they got a division now solely for electric vehicles. And then they got a division for gasoline vehicles. But more likely than not, the division for gasoline vehicles, they gonna start cutting it back because when they come up with a division for electric vehicles, that means they just cut the gas powered vehicles, in half, right? So they're moving away totally from the combustible engine. Matter of fact, as I talk about it, didn't I read last session or session before last, somewhere around there, where they said by 2030 they're not even gonna be making any more combustible engine vehicles. It's all gonna be electric. See, and again, Rivka, you put up there earlier, right? Where it costs $20,000 for an electric battery for these electric cars. So who, like I said, you get an electric vehicle, that battery is only going to take so many charges, like all batteries. And eventually it's going to die out. You're going to have to get a new, you understand? You're going to have to get a new vehicle, a new battery. And you say the battery going to cost $20,000. How many people going to be able to afford that? And not only that, with people getting deeper and deeper in debt, and their income getting less and less and less, they ain't even gonna be able to even charge it. You know what I mean? Where they can make payments on it. So that's just being realistic, right? What's next? Okay, Kavaya, you say Ezekiel 16:8, referring to when Yah entered into a special covenant with Dawid, Zadok, and Lawai. Okay, well, yeah, and is it symbolic of Jerusalem spiritually mature? No, it's symbolical of Jerusalem coming into existence. Okay? Coming into existence. Right? Because like I said, there was no Jerusalem when Yah brought Israel out of Egypt. That's when Jerusalem was created, but we see there was no covenant with David yet. Right? That's when Yah made the covenant, you understand, with and created the priesthood. Aharon was the first high priest, right? His sons were the first priests, right? And then he took the whole tribe of Lewi for killing the firstborn man, woman, beast of Egypt, right? Then later on, he made the everlasting covenant with David and his seed, and later on, possibly even not right around that time, right after that, not long after that, because Samuel had died, Esau took it out of the book. Yah made the everlasting covenant with Zadok and his seed, always be high priest. See, but like I said earlier, we see the governor, the scepter being talked about in Genesis 49. You understand? You're going to be in Yehudah, right? And it would come back into Yehudah because we again, when Shiloh was established, who was governor? YHWH, and he was out of the tribe of Ephraim, right? Okay, and you can say that goes back into the law of the two wives situation, right? Because Ephraim out of Yahoseh, and Ephraim was set before Manasseh. Yahadasa, she deals with that, law of the two wives a lot, and looking at it from that situation, right? But again, there was no Jerusalem before coming out of Egypt. And again, Moshe was the first governor. That's denoted in Deuteronomy 33. When Yah said, when all the tribes were gathered together, Lewi was king or governor, and that was Moshe. And Aharon was the high priest. And again, we know, Jacob and Yadasa, now we've talked about it. It had to be Lewi. He was totally remorseful and contrite for what he had done to his brother Yahoseh. That had to be the original Lewi. And again, we see in Genesis chapter 49, when Israel, when he was, getting ready to depart, and he blessed each boy, what did he say about Simeon and Lewi? Divide them in Israel. And that's exactly what Yah did. He took Lewi, because as Jacob and Yadasa brought to me, it looks like, Lewi was following Simeon. Simeon was the older, it was Reuben, then Simeon, and then Lewi, then Yehudah, right? It looks like Lewi was following Simeon, but they both came in when their mother was really feeling this hatred and this acrimony from Jacob, right? So, so, what I mean? We have to look at all these things and take them into account, right? So, like I said, it's a lot of things going to get cleared up, right? When we get home. And Yah's going to do that just like he did with Moshe, who was the governor back then when he brought him out of Egypt. He's going to do that. You remember chapter 30 with the governor. He's going to cause him to come near, and he's going to give him, everything that we need that we don't have now, and it reinforce even what we've got. Okay? So is that it?
No, Mama, we only got a few minutes.
Okay. Othniel, okay, indeed, you said you thought that the Lewites were the only tribe that couldn't marry outside of Israel, though? Well, again, we see that the Benjamites, right, over in the back end of Judges, they you know, because they almost got wiped out from that situation, you know, they had become perverse, right? And so they took a wife, singular, of the Canaanites, right? Wasn't that the Canaanites? Back at the back end of Judges. And it's in the last, back at the back end. The women of Jabesh Gilead, you see verse 12, chapter 21, Judges. And they took these women of Jabesh Gilead, young virgins that had known no man by lying with any male. You see verse 10, and the congregation sent there 12,000 men of the valiantest, and commanded them, saying, Go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. And this is the thing that you shall do. You shall utterly destroy every male, every woman that had lain by man. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by lying with any male. And they brought them unto the camp to Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, right? And because the Benjamites had been whacked out so bad, you know, from what they had done with, you know, that priest's wife who was whorish, you know, you can go back and read the story again, right? And they took a wife, right, of those four, you know, to reinvigorate, you know, to multiply the tribe of Benjamin. Because again, you know, you are what your father is, not what your mother is. And the Lewites can take a wife of any tribe, but she has to be a virgin, or she has to have had a priest prior, right? Okay, so we're going to call it a session, and you know, you mull over all this. Y'all just going to replay this whole thing next week. Hopefully she'll be able to play it, and it'll stream and everything without any interference. But like I said, they might be using Pegasus on us. Okay, so but read, study, pray, and do it again. All of you who have called while the session was going on, you know, call me tomorrow, because there's only one people I'm going to talk to when I get off tonight. And you call me tomorrow or after tomorrow or the next day, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Because you could have brought it up here on the screen. Evidently, you listening. You could have brought it up here on the screen where everybody could see it. Because we all, you know, this is like a console we're all doing now. Right? All right. So read, study, pray, and do. Stay focused. And cleave unto Yah with all your heart and soul, right? Because we love Yah with all our heart and soul, right? For Yah righteousness, Jerusalem, and the Holy See. Yah bless everybody. Peace.